Good evening. A unique day in American history is ending, a day set aside for a nationwide outpouring of mankind seeking its own survival.
Howdy, y'all. I'm Brylan. The Satanic Temple opened a telehealth abhorrent center on Trump's birthday. Now they're calling it the president's huge, most beautiful, tremendous satanic abhorrent clinic. Now this isn't the first time they've done something like this. If you remember back in 2023, they opened a clinic in the name of Justice Samuel Alito's mother. But in this video, I'm going to show you how this goes much deeper than what it appears. I'm going to show you how the world system is actually the ones behind this. I'm also going to show you things that date back as far as World War I. That proves that this isn't just the Satanic Church being the Satanic Church, and that it goes, well, much deeper than that. But as hard as it might be to watch some of what I show you in this video, please don't look away. The more you know about what I'm going to show you in this video, the more prepared you will be to defend the truth. Real quick, would you consider hitting that thumbs up button? When you like this video, it'll get pushed out to more people, and it would really help spread the truth. Now, a lot of people think that the taking of life in the womb has decreased since the overturn of RVW, but that's just not the case. In fact, it's increasing in a lot of areas. And the elites know this. Their plan is still going full steam ahead. Now, this sounds demonic. It is demonic. And it might be hard to see this. I understand that. But this isn't far off from what healthcare professionals are telling you. In fact, the Satanic Church says that one's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone. Personal affirmation, by my body, my blood, by my will, it is done. These are the exact same things being told to us by those who control the healthcare system, the entertainment industry, the schooling system, you name it. It's everywhere. This is exactly what is being indoctrinated into the minds of as many people as they possibly can. It's all about me. You do what's best for you, me, myself, and I. That is all that matters. Now, this all stems from globalists that have a much more sinister plan. A lot of people miss this. They don't realize this. They don't know that this is actually happening, yet they have been saying it right in front of our faces for decades and decades. The globalists have been calling for a reduction in population for many, many years. Globalists like Ted Turner are famous for trying to institute a new world order that reduces the population of the earth from billions of people to about 500 million people. Now, what's one way to ensure that you reduce the population of the world? Ding, 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 ding.
You are so far above the population and the consumption levels, which can be supported by this planet, that I know in one way or another it's going to come back down.
We've got to stabilize the population. When I was born, there were
so what's wrong with the population?
with too many people. That's why we have global warming. We have global warming because too many people are using too much stuff. But if there were less people, they'd be using less stuff.
Then the big political and economic question of the 21st century will be, what do we need humans for? Or at least, what do we need so many humans for?
All the religious groups are against me because I'm talking about population. They want more souls. I want less on the planet.
And keeping children alive, would that create more of a population problem?
The negative impact of population growth on all of our planetary ecosystems is becoming appallingly evident.
So we're going to have 1 billion people, and we're now at 7, so we have to get back down.
First, we've got population. Now, the world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
The United Nations can and should play an essential role in helping the world find a satisfactory way of stabilizing world population.
What do you see as the biggest challenges in conservation?
the growing human population.
Now again, globalists have been calling for a reduction in population for a long time, many decades. Now, as you notice, the globalists, the elites, try to make the argument that the population of the world is an existential threat to the environment, and we must do everything we can to lower the population. That's why you see so many of these environmentalists are so fanatical. They're crazy in a lot of ways. These people are not just indoctrinated into this environmental religion, one of Satan's greatest tricks. Now, we've seen the New World Order being talked about since really the 1800s. It started with the founder of the Baha'i faith, but it really started to kick up around World War I. We've even seen presidents of the United States, unsuspecting ones that you wouldn't think would be pushing for something like a new world order. Many presidents on both sides calling for a new world order, even including George H.W. Bush. Now, he was actually one of the biggest proponents.
Is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law.
How anybody could sit there and listen to that and be okay with it, but they have been conditioning Americans to accept this for a long time. That's why when it got to the point in 1991 when George H.W. Bush talked about how essentially we need a new world order and the benefits of it, people sat there and accepted it. There was a book called The American Journal of Economics and Sociology. It was volume 1, number 3. It was from April 1942. There is a part in this book. It's called The Christian Basis for a New World Order, written by Donald A. McLean. It goes back even as far as, look at 1920. Here's an old article, The Review and Expositor. It's about how the Baptist missions will operate in the New World Order. In fact, a man named Nicholas Murray Butler, a very powerful man, who was the president of Columbia University, he had influence over presidents, prime ministers, kings, you name it. He was very influential. He could essentially get the ear and attention of the most powerful people on earth. And he talked about the idea of a new world order as far back as World War I. He was also very famous for this quote: "The world is divided into 3 kinds of people: a very small group that makes things happen, a somewhat larger group that watches things happen, and a great multitude that never knows what has happened." In fact, it went as far as the Pope actually backing plans for a new world government. This was back in 1951. The Pope met with the United Federalists and backed a new world order so that there could be peace on earth. There is no other way to achieve peace on earth except through a new world government. Rome, April 6th, Pope Pius praised today the principle of world government as a means to establish peace and bring about a collaboration among all the nations for the common good of mankind. Now, also in 1951, there was an article called The Attacks on World Government. Now, in this article, it talks about the disarmament of societies. Disarmament can neither be achieved unilaterally nor by treaties among groups of states who, history has shown, cannot afford to depend upon the good faith of other powers for safety. Disarmament can only come under the aegis of an all-inclusive world organization that has the power to assure each nation security from attack by others. Listen to this. The United Nations can be transformed into such an organization. If you weren't aware, the United Nations has a plan called Transforming Our World, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Now, they'll tell you up and down. In fact, there's lots of websites, Snopes and all them, that had to put out entire articles fact-checking people's claims that this is essentially a one world system, new world order type agenda. And because the actual words New World Order don't appear in this agenda, it has been fact-checked as being false, that this isn't a New World Order. This isn't a one world agenda. But all you have to do is look at the outline of what the plan is, and it tells you. Goal number 1 would be to end poverty in all its forms everywhere. Now, how could you reduce or even end poverty? Do you think they're going to give up, the elites are going to give up their own money and resources, food, water? No. Now, of course, they'll push for the socialist, communistic, take from those that have and give to those that don't. But ultimately, the only sustainable way to end poverty everywhere in the world is to reduce the population. And then they go on to push literally every radical left agenda out there, that they must achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls while twisting what a woman is, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education, indoctrination, in other words. You can see what their agenda is, but it also goes on to say make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. You notice how inclusive comes first, before safety. In fact, the United Nations Human Rights Committee asserts that access to abhorrent and prevention of maternal mortality are human rights. The United Nations has made their stance clear. It is a human right, and the only morally right thing to do is allow you to take the life of a child in the womb. Even the World Health Organization, again, these are all the major players in our society, those who hold full and complete control over your lives. Who defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity, making health for all a reality, and moving towards a progressive realization of human rights. Requires that all individuals have access to quality health care, including comprehensive abhorrent care. Now, we can trace a lot of where people were susceptible to being indoctrinated by this kind of thinking back to April 22nd, 1970. This was a year where there was a major shift in people being open and accepting a pagan ideology, a pagan worldview. April 22nd, 1970 was the first Earth Day in America.
This is a CBS News special, Earth Day, a question of survival, with CBS News correspondent Walter Cronkite.
Good evening. A unique day in American history is ending, a day set aside for a nationwide outpouring of mankind seeking its own survival. Earth Day, a day dedicated to enlisting all the citizens of a bountiful country in the common cause of saving life from the deadly byproducts of that bounty. The fouled skies, the filthy waters, the littered earth.
Do you see the tactics they're using to try to push Earth Day? It's an existential threat. It's our lives depend on you being indoctrinated into this worldview. Not only was it all over the news, again, in propaganda form, but it was held all over the nation. It was called the Environmental Teach-In, where thousands upon thousands of schools all across the nation participated in Earth Day. In fact, there was even different materials that were made and passed out to students and people to essentially be indoctrinated into this satanic cult. One of the ways they did this is by using something called the Environmental Handbook, prepared for the first national environmental teach-in. In the Environmental Handbook, there was a very famous article written, it was from 1967, by Lynn White Jr. It's called The Historical Roots of Our Ecologic Crisis. In this article, again, that was passed out, it was created specifically for Earth Day and passed out to as many people as possible. And in 1970, people were exposed to essentially this new religion. And in this article by Lynn White, the entirety of the basis of the environmental issues, the existential threat that is happening to our world, is because of Christianity. Christianity is to blame for all of the issues that the environment is facing. At one point he says, hence, we shall continue to have worsening ecological crisis until we reject the Christian axiom that nature has no reason for existence save to serve man. But he also goes on to say more science and more technology are not going to get us out of the present ecological crisis until we find a new religion or rethink our old one. But middle schoolers, high schoolers, those in college were exposed to the reason why there is an existential threat to our environment, to the world, is because of Christianity. And it caught on like a wildfire. You really started to see throughout the 70s an absolute embrace of pagan ideas. In fact, at the back of this environmental handbook, you can find a list of acceptable religions. And Christianity, of course, is not one of them. So, these abhorrent clinics that are popping up under the Satanic Church, they are not just, the Satanic Church doing evil things because they're the Satanic Church. They are a part of a far greater world system that has not gone away. The battle is not won. The overturning of RVW doesn't mean that we can just sit back and pretend like everything is hunky-dory now. It's all sunshine and rainbows. No, there is still a great evil, a great attack on life in the womb. And it is ingrained into our system. It is ingrained into those who have the most power in our society, the elites, politicians, the bureaucracy, the ones behind the scenes, calling the shots. You think it's the politicians. In many cases, it's not. Ephesians 6 tells us that we don't wrestle with flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. And we can be protected from this battle, this war that is raging in the spiritual realm, that is more dangerous than any battle or war you can face physically. We can put on the armor of God. In fact, I implore you to read Ephesians 6 to learn how to be protected by God. Put on the armor of God to withstand the evil day that we are living in. But hey, let me know your thoughts about all this in the comment section. I would love to hear from you. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, join this community. I would love to hear from you on a regular basis. And please, hit that thumbs up button. When you like this video, to get pushed out to more people, and it would really help spread the truth. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.